Gabby Petito's distraught family is denouncing her boyfriend. The one person that can help find Gabby refuses to help, her family says.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're examining the most infamous cases when a person went missing in every year of the 21st century so far. We'll see what happened the year they vanished and later developments of the case.
Specially trained dogs have joined the search for the missing British teenager Jay Slater.
2000, Zebb Quinn.
As you know, there's never been a body recovered in the investigation involving Zebb Quinn's disappearance. The Asheville Police Department is committed to leaving no stone unturned.
In January 2000, after finishing work, Zebb Quinn went to see a vehicle with his co-worker Robert Jason Owens. They drove separately. According to Owens, Quinn received a page, abruptly sped away, and disappeared. His car was found several days later in a restaurant parking lot. The headlights were on, and a puppy was in the back seat. Someone had drawn a kiss and an exclamation point on the back window in pink lipstick.
Nothing. No clues that could lead to an arrest. No hints of whether he is dead or alive.
There was no sign of Quinn. A breakthrough came in 2017 when officials charged Owens with Quinn's murder. The exact circumstances are unknown, but a love triangle may be at the heart of the case. At the time of his conviction, Owens was already serving life for killing Christy and Joseph Codd.
At this point, investigators have called his arrest a major break in the case.
Feel very confident in the strength of the case.
2001, Sneha Philip.
It has been a long and awful and frustrating day for the many, many relatives of the hundreds and hundreds of people who are still missing after yesterday's attack.
On September 10, 2001, Philip had a day off from her doctor internship at the Cabrini Medical Center in New York City. However, while she was seen running errands, her husband, Ron Lieberman, didn't see her that day. The following day, the Twin Towers were attacked. As a result, the search for Philip was severely hindered, with the family losing faith in the NYPD's investigation. A private investigator managed to find evidence that suggested she had returned to her apartment shortly before the first plane struck the tower. It was speculated Philip had gone to help during the attack, only to lose her life in the process. In 2008, she was officially added to the victims of 9/11.
I was on the phone with her, and she told me that she couldn't leave because there was people who were hurt.
2002, Elizabeth Smart.
14-year-old Elizabeth Smart ripped from her bedroom in the middle of the night, missing for 9 months, until a remarkable turn of events.
In the dark of night, Elizabeth Smart was roused from sleep by a knife-wielding intruder. Her sister, Mary Catherine, who shared a room with Smart, lay frozen in fear and pretended to be asleep. Brian David Mitchell held Smart captive for 9 months. During that time, Smart went on several public outings with Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee.
He had a big cable bolted onto my leg, which was strung between 2 trees with a lock, she said. He had the key around his neck.
They forced Smart to wear a veil and headscarf to hide her identity. Mary Catherine eventually recognized the kidnapper's voice as that of a man who once did some work on the family's home. A sketch of the man was featured on America's Most Wanted, and some of Mitchell's family members recognized him. Mitchell and Barzee were soon apprehended, and Smart was reunited with her family.
I eventually came to a point where I was like, okay, one day, somehow, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to get back to my family.
2003, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus. This is easily one of the most famous kidnapping stories of our time, having attained fame through its dramatic conclusion. Between 2002 and 2004, a man named Ariel Castro kidnapped the 3 women off the streets of Cleveland by offering them lifts. They remained in his house for roughly a decade and were subjected to various forms of horrible torture. It wasn't until May 6, 2013, that Berry saw her chance of escape. Castro had accidentally left a door unlocked, and Berry was able to contact passing neighbors.
So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911. My name is Amanda Berry."
They helped Berry and her daughter escape the house, and she telephoned the police to report the kidnappings, after which the other 2 were rescued. Castro was arrested that same day, and he would later take his own life in his detention cell.
I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning.
2004, Timothy Carney. A young New Jersey man named Timothy Carney went missing in September of 2004 after calling his employer and telling him that he would be late for work. That night, Carney's empty vehicle was discovered near Newark. His parents searched years for their son, and he was finally found safe on September 23, 2011, nearly 7 full years from the day he disappeared. Unfortunately, not much information was given regarding his situation. Carney's parents believe that he was influenced by a religious organization known as the Gospel Outreach to abandon all contact with his family. 2005, Natalee Holloway.
It's the bombshell breakthrough in a 12-year mystery. The disappearance of Natalee Holloway, the 18-year-old who vanished while on a high school graduation trip to Aruba.
After graduating from high school in Mountain Brook, Alabama, Holloway and 124 classmates went to Aruba to celebrate in 2005. Hours before she was due to return home, she got in the car of Dutch national and Aruba resident Joran van der Sloot, along with his 2 friends. Holloway was not seen again.
I remember seeing Natalee in a white car, driving away. The window was rolled down so we could see it was her in the back of the car.
Van der Sloot and his friends claimed they dropped her off at her hotel and didn't know what happened to her. With a lack of evidence in 2012, Holloway was officially declared dead. In 2023, while in prison for murdering Stephanie Flores Ramirez, van der Sloot was extradited to the U.S. to face charges to fraud related to Holloway. During this, he confessed to taking her life. 2006, Brian Shaffer.
What happened to Brian Shaffer?
In 2006, Shaffer met with his father Randy at a restaurant in Columbus, Ohio for a bittersweet dinner. While celebrating the start of spring break, it was only 4 weeks since his mother passed away from cancer. Afterward, the Ohio State University medical student went bar hopping with his friends. However, while at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, Shaffer's friends waited for him outside, only for him to not be seen again.
A young medical student last seen going up this escalator to a popular campus area bar, but video never showed him leaving.
CCTV footage showed him at the bar in the early hours talking to 2 women. However, there was no video of him leaving the venue and no clue of his whereabouts to this day. His father passed away in 2008 due to an accident in a storm. 2007, Madeleine McCann.
Tonight, Madeleine's parents, Jerry and Kate, are still waiting desperately for news.
In 2007, Kate and Jerry McCann took their 3 children on holiday in Lagos, Portugal, alongside friends and their kids. One evening, the British parents left their children asleep in the apartment and met with their friends at a nearby restaurant. When they returned an hour and a half later, Madeleine was gone. One of the most infamous missing person cases in the UK, there was intense speculation that Kate and Jerry were involved in covering up Madeleine's demise. However, other theories involved reports of a man being seen carrying a child that evening.
And the question now preoccupying police is, did somebody break in? And if so, how did they get through this type of shutter?
The McCanns strongly believe an assailant took Madeleine. While German police publicly named a suspect in 2020, he has yet to be formally charged for Madeleine's disappearance. 2008, Brandon Swanson. Celebrating the end of the spring semester at the Minnesota West Community and Technical College in May 2008, Swanson left a party and drove home. He'd been drinking, but according to witnesses, not enough to be intoxicated. He crashed into a ditch in the early hours and escaped uninjured. Swanson called his parents, who drove out to pick him up. After struggling to find each other, despite talking on the phone throughout, Swanson suggested meeting his parents at a nearby bar. Suddenly, the student uttered an exclamation, and the line went dead. He hasn't been found since. His parents, who have left their porch light for their son, helped to instigate Brandon's Law in 2009, which sped up the search for missing adults in the state. 2009, Britney Drexel.
And then Britney says, "Okay, Mom, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you." Those were her last words to me.
On the evening of April 25, 2009, Britney Drexel went missing from the busy Main Strip in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and was never seen again. A few days prior, without her mother's knowledge or consent, Drexel had traveled from her home in Shiloh, New York to visit the popular vacation destination for spring break with some friends. Security footage showed Drexel arriving at the Blue Water Resort around 8 p.m. to visit a friend, and then departing a short time later.
Because Miss Drexel didn't make it to the corner of that video, but she was in the other video, and she was on the phone at this point, but not on the phone at this point, they were able to pick a very narrow, less than a minute time frame that something happened to her.
Britney seemingly vanished into thin air somewhere between the Blue Water Resort and her hotel. 13 years later, in 2022, Raymond Moody, a convicted sex offender, confessed to kidnapping and killing Drexel. He was subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. The search for Britney is now a pursuit of Britney's justice.
2010, Amber Tuccaro. In 2010, Indigenous Canadian Tuccaro took her infant son and a friend for a short trip and booked a hotel in Nisku, Alberta. One evening, to get to nearby Edmonton by herself, she hitchhiked and got in the car of an unidentified man. While in the vehicle, Tuccaro got a phone call. During it, the man can be heard talking as Tuccaro mentioned he better not be driving somewhere she doesn't want to go.
You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city.
She then vanished. In 2012, Tuccaro's remains were found in Leduc County. Tuccaro's family has heavily criticized the cops for their response to the investigation involving an Indigenous woman. In 2019, they apologized for how they handled the case. Tuccaro's family is still looking for the driver.
Now, her only hope is that someone out there recognizes the voice and has the courage to speak up.
2011, Lauren Spierer.
It's been more than 10 years since the disappearance of IU student Lauren Spierer.
In 2011, Spierer went out with her friends in Bloomington, Indiana. The Indiana University student was heavily intoxicated from substances and drinks, at one point leaving her shoes and phone at a bar. After briefly going back to a friend's apartment, Spierer left, intending to go home. She was last seen walking barefoot along the street. After her boyfriend got in touch with employees at the bar who had her phone, he reported her missing. While the police investigated Spierer's movements, including examining a landfill and getting over 3,000 tips, no sign of her has been discovered. Spierer's parents issued lawsuits against her friends involved that fateful night, but they were all dismissed.
To the person that has knowledge about Lauren's whereabouts, if you think that our determination is any less, it's not.
2012, Derek Lueking.
He didn't show up for work. It was super unusual. It was our, first hint that something was not normal.
In 2012, when he didn't show up to work as an aide at Peninsula Hospital in Louisville, Tennessee, Lueking's roommate reported him missing. He was then found to have spent over $1,000 on camping equipment, despite not partaking in the hobby even though he was a fan of Bear Grylls. Lueking's last sighting was leaving a hotel in Cherokee, North Carolina. His car was discovered at a parking lot in Newfound Gap, near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Inside the vehicle were the camping equipment he'd purchased, park maps, and a strange note that requested whoever found it to not look for him. It's unknown if Lueking wrote the message. There's been no sign of him since.
Today, Derek's mother runs a Facebook page, keeping his story alive.
2013, Robert McDonough.
Well, sometimes timing is everything, Aaron and Shannon, and good news and a happy ending right now. The gentleman behind us you're looking at, that is Robert McDonough.
If you saw this in a movie, you'd think, no, there's no way. In May of 2013, an elderly man named Robert McDonough went missing from his Leamington, Maine home. The danger was compounded by the fact that McDonough has dementia. The authorities were called and searched the nearby woods throughout the night, but found nothing. The next morning, a local news crew stationed themselves outside McDonough's house to report on his disappearance. And that is when McDonough quite literally strolled into the shot and asked the news crew what was happening. McDonough was safe and healthy, and it was reported that he had wandered out of his house and likely into the neighboring forest.
This is you identifying Miss Bob McDonough?
I think so. It's Bob McDonough. Yeah. He looks a lot like a guy.
Watch yourself.
Yeah.
The rescue team may have just missed him during their search. 2014, Lars Mittank. Mittank and his friends left their home country of Germany for a vacation to Varna, Bulgaria for a week in 2014. On the day they were set to return, Mittank turned up and stated he was attacked by a group connected to an argument he had with other people about football. With the injuries leaving him unable to fly, Mittank was left behind while his friends returned home. However, he then called his mother and said that people were trying to hurt him. The next day, during a meeting with the Varna airport doctor to get cleared for flying, a construction worker accidentally walked in. This caused Mittank to panic. Captured on CCTV, he ran into the nearby woods, his last known sighting. 2015, Henry McCabe. Corrie McKeague was in California while her husband Henry was at their home in Mounds View, Minnesota in 2015. Seeing a voicemail from him that he left in the early hours, she listened to it. The disturbing message seemingly had groans of pain and unknown noises. Before it cut out, a voice stated, quote, "Stop it." Another indecipherable voicemail was sent to Henry's brother. Henry was soon reported missing. The police traced his last movements to being dropped off by a friend at a gas station after a night out in the early hours. Nearly 2 months later, Henry's body was found in a lake. While officially his death was not ruled as suspicious, the disturbing voicemail has led to several sinister theories. 2016, Corrie McKeague.
This weekend marks the unwanted anniversary of Corrie McKeague's disappearance.
These grainy images the last glimpse of the RAF serviceman.
McKeague was enjoying a night out in Bury St Edmunds, England in 2016, away from the Royal Air Force Base he was stationed at. While at a nightclub, he was asked to leave due to being heavily intoxicated. Separated from his friends, McKeague went to a takeout before CCTV captured him walking into a street that contained several wheelie bins. It's also believed he briefly fell asleep in a doorway. This was the last time McKeague was seen. The investigation discovered McKeague's phone was last detected at a landfill. Despite searching the area, no trace of him was found. It's believed McKeague had fallen into a bin and was crushed by a lorry as the content was taken to the landfill.
I need to find Corrie, and I need to know how. There's no way I could carry on with the rest of my life, however that will be, without knowing that I've done everything that I can. I'm his mum.
2017, Bruno Borges. After spending several weeks writing books in 2017, Borges vanished from his home in Rio Branco, Acre, Brazil. When his bedroom at his parents' house was searched, 14 books he had written, a statue of philosopher Giordano Bruno, and encrypted messages were found within. The intrigue of the story inspired mobile games about him and wild theories of what happened. 3 months later, his family agreed to publish one of his books. 5 months after his initial vanishing, Borges, barefoot and weak, returned to his parents' house. Shortly after, he began working on mistakes from the published book, as he stated he left of his own accord. Then, Borges opened up his bedroom as an exhibit. It's speculated he disappeared to boost his book sales. 2018, Jayme Closs. In 2018, Jake Patterson invaded the Closs home in Barron, Wisconsin, armed with a shotgun. He fatally shot James and Denise Closs before abducting their daughter Jayme and taking her to his cabin in Gordon, Wisconsin. Patterson had become fixated on Closs after seeing her get off a school bus. 88 days later, Patterson put Closs under his bed before leaving home, assuming that she was too scared to escape. She seized the opportunity and fled, subsequently encountering a woman who recognized her from the news.
Obviously, Jayme is under this tremendous fear and is using that fear in the beginning to keep her captive.
I think for her, she just kept it together every day. She didn't know when she was going to get out, or if she ever was going to. It must have taken everything inside her to just take that moment and run.
It didn't take long for the cops to locate Patterson and extract a confession from him. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences without parole for the murders, plus 40 years for the kidnapping. 2019, Amanda Eller. Yoga teacher and physical therapist Amanda Eller decided to go for a hike through the Hawaiian wilderness. She never returned home, and her boyfriend quickly reported her missing. Her vehicle was found abandoned near Maui's Kahakapau Trail, but there were no signs of Eller. She had accidentally wandered off the trail and found herself in the middle of the remote wilderness. When it was obvious that help wasn't coming, she was forced to live off wild plants, berries, and rainwater. After over 2 long and grueling weeks, Eller was finally located by a search party and rescued via helicopter.
The last 17 days of my life have been the toughest days of my life. And it's been a really significant spiritual journey.
She was in surprisingly good condition and was treated at a local hospital for a fractured leg.
I'm just a girl that got lost in the woods, and you guys showed up hard. This is true aloha.
2020, Mazen Al-Hamada.
For Syrians who wanted a different kind of country, Mazen Al-Hamada embodied the cause.
In 2012, Hamada was arrested in his home country of Syria for attempting to smuggle baby formula into Damascus. He was a victim of terrible abuse that forced him to confess to various crimes. In 2013, upon finally being released, Hamada sought refuge in the Netherlands. Here, he spoke out about what he endured. In 2020, Hamada returned to Syria to help people. Instead, as soon as he arrived in the country, Hamada was arrested before he vanished. In 2024, once Bashar al-Assad's rule of Syria was overthrown, the truth about what happened to Hamada was discovered when the activist's body was identified. After experiencing further abuse, it's believed he was murdered shortly before the fall of Damascus.
The street version of a state funeral, something Bashar al-Assad will never get.
2021, Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito's distraught family is denouncing her boyfriend. The one person that can help find Gabby refuses to help, her family says.
After saving money to pursue her dream, Petito and her partner Brian Laundrie went traveling across the U.S. in 2021. They planned to document their van life online. After getting strange messages from her and then not hearing from her daughter for a couple of weeks, Petito's mother reported her missing. Laundrie, who had been visiting his parents since Petito's last message to her mom, also disappeared when police wanted to speak with him. Shortly after, Petito's remains were found in Wyoming. A month later, Laundrie's remains were located. It was determined he had taken his own life. During the investigation, Laundrie's notebook was discovered that confessed he had taken Petito's life and then pretended to be her in messages to people.
Glimpses into his final words. The FBI recovered this notebook last year near the remains of Brian Laundrie.
2022. Jordan Simeon.
It's been 2 weeks since a North Dakota man was reported missing in Arkansas.
He was traveling down south to Louisiana when he had car trouble.
Simeon decided to leave his home in Fargo, North Dakota to start a new life in New Orleans, Louisiana in 2022. However, as he drove down Interstate 40 in Arkansas, his car broke down. He called his friend who lived in New Orleans to let her know what had happened and that he planned to get a bus for the rest of the trip. However, Simeon never got aboard. Around 2 months later, his vehicle was located, still containing his belongings. A body was then found in a nearby creek. Later, DNA analysis concluded the body, with no signs of trauma, was Simeon. Before his disappearance, Simeon was reportedly showing symptoms of Huntington's disease, an incurable neurodegenerative illness he was diagnosed with. 2023, Alexei Navalny.
And tonight, Vladimir Putin's fiercest critic, the man who blamed the Kremlin for trying to poison him, yet still decided to fly back to Russia, is facing jail time. Hundreds of protesters have been detained.
After working as a lawyer, Navalny began his ascension into anti-corruption activism and became a prominent opponent of Vladimir Putin's reign, causing him to be suspiciously criminally charged. After an assassination attempt that Navalny believed Putin was behind, he returned to Russia in 2021. He was quickly arrested for violating parole on previous sentences as additional crimes were put on him. Shortly after receiving multiple jail terms, in 2023, Navalny vanished from prison. 3 weeks later, he was seen at a corrective colony in the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug. In 2024, Russia announced Navalny had passed away. While it's not clear what the cause was, officials claimed a blood clot or sudden death syndrome was responsible. However, Navalny's supporters believe he was assassinated.
Critics point out that many of Putin's opponents have died just like this, mysteriously, either falling out of windows or poisoned.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. 2024, Jay Slater.
Specially trained dogs have joined the search for the missing British teenager Jay Slater.
In 2024, while attending a music festival in Tenerife, Spain on vacation from his home in England, Slater missed the bus to get back to where he was staying. Walking through the wilderness, he called his friend to tell her. With an injured leg from a cactus and his phone battery dying, the call suddenly cut out. Shortly after, he was reported missing. Social media was rife with speculation as crowdfunders were created and Slater's 2023 sentence for attacking a teenager was discovered. During the search for Slater, another missing hiker was found. A month after vanishing, Slater's body was found in a ravine. The autopsies concluded he'd fallen from high up and sustained a fatal head injury.
His body was found near where his mobile was last used when he called friends to say he was walking the many miles back to his resort.
What was the biggest missing person case the year you were born? Let us know below.
Brian is also refusing to explain why he left Gabby all alone and drove her van to Florida. These are critical questions that require immediate answers.